I'm connecting, and I believe that we are recording.
Nice.
Yes.
We want to document this.
We are going to document this because, all right, everybody, I'm not going to do that, like, guess who's coming, and all that other stuff. But guess who I have on the Earl Jones show? Oh, my God. I have a young man. I call him young because if you in my rule now, if you're alive and you walking around and you're growing as an individual, as a person, you are still young. And Jason Gelios, am I pronouncing your last name correct? Did I pronounce it correctly?
Gelios, yeah.
Gelios, see, bless America. So you guys, Jason Gelios. Oh my God. So I met him on the Ash Sharif show a few weeks ago, actually.
Yeah.
And I told everybody on that show about how I have a talk show and I've kind of given up. I've gotten depressed and all that other stuff, right? Yes, Black folks, we get depressed. Let's just admit it. I said it. It's the truth. Like people, Jason, like people don't talk about mental health, right? But anyway,
yeah, they really don't.
That's how I brought you here. And so, I said, hey, I want to get back to this because it adds value. So Jason volunteered to help bring me back to this. But the thing that I want you guys to know about Jason, right? Not only has he written a book called Think Like a Real Estate Agent, right, Jason?
Think Like a Realtor, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You got it.
Think Like a Realtor, which I'm like, oh my God. He's the author of a book called Think Like a Realtor, right? And he has his own talk show. He's been featured in, let me tell you guys, he's been featured on money.yahoo.com. He's also been featured on Billion Success, SF Gate, The Penny Hoarder, Fox Business, Go Blue Sun, Apartment Therapy. He's been on iHeartRadio, Next Advisor, Yakima Held Republic, Hippo, which is, for those I am an insurance agent. So you were featured in Hippo, The Medium, and it just continues to go on and on and on. And if you check out, which I'm gonna put a link to Jason's LinkedIn page and his other sites, if you check this man out, even though he's in Michigan, right, the information that he puts out is extremely valuable.
Thank you.
So I'm just going, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm talking to a god. Let me bow.
Oh God, no way, no way. I'm not quite. Well, I'll never be on that level. The competition's fierce for that. But I definitely appreciate the kind words. So, so far it's been a busy year, especially with the press mentions. Just trying to put out more and more value. We kind of covered this a little bit prior to the show starting, but
right.
How a lot of people with the pandemic and with everything, it's kind of been doom and gloom. And so I think, overall, I think it's important for everybody, especially professionals, to remain neutral for one, but also just share value, and just, things that are fun. And I think video is huge on that, because more and more people are tuned in to social media, they're tuned into video, things like that. So any way that we can create value is huge.
This is good. But I want to ask you a question because you said professionals should remain neutral. Yes. I want you to open it up. Because it's interesting, because I have been struggling with the whole pandemic, because even I will confess, I've been the way that it used to be, how it's not. Right. Oh my God, and I'm going, I literally have to remind myself. So what are you doing to remain neutral? I know that you talked about adding value in video, but it cannot be just that simple.
No, and you know what? Quite honestly, I mean, especially in 2020, when the world was turned upside down. It's going to be a daily struggle. I don't want people to think that I wake up positive every day. I have my days. I have days where I'm like, you know what? I should have went back to bed because I'm not doing anybody any favors, but I think it just boils down to one, what's your why?
Okay.
I have set my goals high to where if it forces me to at least push forward and do the effort pretty much daily that I need to be. So I set my goals higher versus being, content. And I don't, if somebody's happy making X amount per year,
Mhm.
that's great. That is perfectly fine. I don't knock that at all. Not everybody wants to make 6 figures, 7 figures, all that, right? But they can't complain about that. If you're happy, content at that level, that's fine. Don't complain about the economy. Don't complain about things because really, you have no right because we're in America. I mean, there's so much opportunity. Um, and then two, it's just, you have to put positive things in your mind. Now,
Mm.
uh, my wife laughs at this one because I like rock music.
Oh, like AC/DC, like Thunderstruck?
Well, I like them, yeah.
I
But
know. Can you
like,
imagine like me knowing about AC/DC? Na 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 na
that's great.
na 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 na.
You have great taste.
I do. I do. I play it in my spin classes when I was, when we go back, like I've
Yeah,
had a rock theme
right,
in my spin class. I love me some
right.
AC/DC.
I like all that stuff too. I like, I die like, okay, my favorite band is actually Korn, and
Corn.
yeah, I know you would never guess that, right? In 2019, September 2019, I went to a live concert before this was ever a thought, the COVID and all that stuff, and I shared that on Facebook, just a tidbit, and people were like, "I would have never thought you liked them." Okay, and my wife is like, but she still laughs because she's like, you know, sometimes people relate hard music like that, which by
Right.
the way, they go up and down.
They do go up and down. They have
Yeah,
a wide genre. They sing a wide genre of
yeah,
music within, that rock band, that rock
absolutely, right.
genre. Yeah.
Um, and that's what I love about them the most is that it's not death metal. Um,
Right.
But when my wife hears it on my headphones, because I have it that loud, she's like, "Oh, brother," you know. So, but anyway, my point is, there's multiple things that I call positive input.
Mhm.
Music like that gets me hyped, gets me going, and then I read inspirational articles. I love reading about people who have overcame obstacles and disabilities. I mean, I'll never forget years ago, I read about a lady who got in a bad accident and lost the use of her legs.
Oh my.
And so, yeah, I mean, terrible. And for about almost a year, she said, and I wish I had that article still, but um, for about a year, she felt sorry for herself. She was also, basically dealing with her new life,
Right.
adjusting her home. And she said, well, okay, I need to make money. So she always had a passion for making really nice dolls, right? The nicer kind, the ones that probably go for $80 to $100, which, um, so she started making these things and she started selling it on eBay. And, this was when eBay was more prominent. Now
Mhm.
they're still out there, but they're not as prominent in my opinion.
Right.
But anyway, so she started a store and then they started selling fast. So then she started making more. And pretty soon she was making almost 6 figures after like a year or two of doing that. So I'm like, stuff like that, I love.
Right.
And it's always the little things, but when we put things in our head that is positive, then it really helps. And it might not solve your day, right? You might just be, I mean, I've had those days where I'm like, just, you know what, I'm counting down to bedtime because I can't get out of it. And it can be something stupid, but it just happens. But most days I have a forward thinking mentality because I just don't want to waste it, um, because we always have it better than someone else.
We do always have it
You
better than
know?
someone else. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I had a good buddy of mine who had lost his daughter. I mean, I went to a 13-year-old's funeral last year. Yeah. And, you
But
know,
Andy, I strongly believe that no child, I think there should be a universal law
right.
that
Oh yeah,
no child should ever go before their parents.
absolutely. And it was a terrible thing. I mean, she was special needs. They didn't anticipate it at that time, but at the same time, they knew that maybe someday it was going to happen.
Mhm.
And so I put that into perspective. Like, you know what? I have family. My family's healthy.
But you got kids yourself, right?
Yes, 14 and 10.
Oh, your hands are full. I
Yeah.
remember what I was like when I was 10 and 14. I was a hellion.
Oh, I was nothing like my kids. I mean, thank God that their mom is smart, and you know they got the majority of her brain, because if they were anything like me, I mean, I did a complete 180. Um, it's just absolutely. I mean, I had a good childhood as far as parents and all that. You know what I mean? They love me. They worked hard. I mean, I had things.
Right.
Um, wasn't the silver spoon, all that. But I mean, they worked really hard. But me as a human being back then, it was like, I mean, um, I probably starting in middle school, I just turned into devil child. So much that I actually had to repeat sixth grade because of behavior. I didn't do the homework. It was just such a terrible time for me in school. And I guess you could say I had some demons that I was fighting, because I just, was just a hellion. And my parents were like, oh, and tried everything, and it just didn't work. Um, I don't know.
But when you also like that, okay, so two things. Let's go back. So your friend with the 14-year-old with the 13-year-old child passed. You were saying about how you put that in perspective.
Right. So it makes me think, you know what? I really can't complain about stupid little things, because what am I complaining about?
Right.
You know, um, somebody inquires about buying a house, and then, they don't do anything, or they don't call you back, and they disappear into the abyss. That happens a lot to people, right?
Mhm.
In general, things like that happen. Um, so when you think about that, you're like, that's such a small problem, you know. And I'll never forget when my son, who's 10, he said, I don't want to go to school today, not feeling it. I don't know, it's not fair. And I said, you know what? There's somebody out there who would love your problems. They would love to switch spots in a heartbeat.
Right.
Um, and
Because
so
he's
I
got a
think,
roof over his head, clothes on his back, shoes on his feet, food in the stomach. He can
right,
go in the refrigerator and pretty much get whatever he wants to eat. And if it's not there, mom and dad have the resources to go get it,
yeah,
or order it on Instacart.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, um, so I think if we constantly feed our minds with positivity, then it really helps. Are you familiar with Darren Hardy?
Oh, I'm familiar with Darren Hardy. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember he had a video, and then he has multiple clips of him saying this, but where he talks about the dirty water going into the clean glass, and what happens with the clean glass? It gets all dirty. But when you put clear water is the positive articles, information, experiences, right? When you put that in there, it's all clear, it's all good, and so it's a
Right.
clear mind. Um,
But a lot of people will say, because this is one point that I want to make, right? A lot of people will say, but Jason, that requires money. That requires money. I grew up in an abusive home.
right.
I didn't get to see Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg, who are my two favorite people, cooking show when it was out. I mean, like, they have a lot of excuses. I myself
Yeah.
have used the past, to justify, um, you know, stuff, right?
Right,
And
right.
then
Of course.
because we've all done it,
Of course,
right?
absolutely.
So when you hear people say that, and when you're sitting here going, be positive, put positive in, but we're going, but you weren't there, you don't know my story, you don't know my history.
Right.
How do you what do you say to that?
That's a great take on it, because I think when you look at people, and I'm going to bring this up against, which they should give me royalties, but when you look, yeah, when you look at a band, like a lot of actors, artists, and stuff who came from, I mean, poor childhoods, practically living on the street. Again, let's go back to the band Korn, because they're my favorite, but they're also very inspirational on the fact that Jonathan Davis, the lead singer,
Mhm.
came from an abusive house. I mean, really bad, multiple types of abuse, and then became this successful music star and producer. I mean, he has multiple things that he does, projects and stuff. I think, like, if I had that person saying, well, you don't know my story, it's like, you know what, you're right, I don't, because I didn't go through anything like that, right? That bad. However, there are people who have found success on huge levels and have gone through that or worse.
Right.
So you just have to really seek it out. And if they don't have the money, that's okay, because there's a lot of resources. I mean, we still have libraries. They're building a brand new one. It's like 20,000 square foot by my house. I mean, libraries aren't going away anytime soon. So you can pop into a library, go online, or check out a book. I mean, there's tons. There's so many success clues, or on your phone, right? Which I've seen people walking on the side of the road that have a phone. They're like, so I think everybody chooses the phone as the main
I'm going
priority.
to say this. I'm going to say this. Chad, let me just say this. There are people that have insurance on their phone, but they do not carry life insurance.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So,
Right.
it is funny that we're talking about this, because I was with a person the other day, and she was like, Earl, you should be a life coach, because we kind of got into this conversation about, where she came from. Like, she did not grow up with money, and she didn't grow up with this, Silicon Valley lifestyle, because he's
Right.
in, Jason's in Michigan, you guys. I'm in, here in Mountain View, California, right?
Right.
So for what I pay in rent, that is a 3,000 square foot house in Michigan,
Yep.
right? But she was talking about that, and she started to talk about how, despite all the struggles that she experienced as a child, she's now living in the Bay Area.
Right.
And that's something to celebrate, right? Regardless of how you slice it, dice, it's something to celebrate. But now, bringing this back full circle, you in sixth grade started being a hellion. So you just didn't achieve this level of success that you currently have. You've already started to talk about your struggles,
Yes.
and then I assume, like, those struggles didn't just one day disappear when you went to the seventh grade.
No, it took years. Probably, I mean, actually, well, I got a little bit better, because being expelled from sixth grade and having them tell you that in front of your parents was very tough. That was like, oh my gosh, okay. And I'll never forget. My mom was like, and my dad's like, I can throw this, oh, he just, you know. So that was humbling, and that straightened me out a little bit.
Right.
But I was just still dealing with some stuff. And then probably not until actually I was in, I think it was about 21, and I met about 20, and I had met my wife, and she had all these goals, and she wanted to become a nurse and all this stuff. And and I was just basically working. I was like, okay, check the check. And I'm like, well, that's cool. And then I hung around more, and then I realized, you know what, we're gonna have a future together. I got to kind of step it up because I don't want to. I mean, one, I was doing hard labor jobs.
What?
No real future. Oh yeah. I was a painter's helper. I stocked Pepsi. Um, I worked in shops. Not really skilled labor like those that could work on a CNC machine. I mean, I was like the shop rat. Just basically jumped in $10 an hour and just did whatever.
I thought you was
um,
living and was living what? I
yeah.
can't even get the words out because when you look at your accomplishments on LinkedIn,
Right.
right? And then you hear this, you're just like, see,
Yeah.
people like, okay, this is where, if I was, this is, I need to refill my teacup.
Well, you know what, too, though, it's very cool. Part of me is like, oh my gosh, that was such a hard time. But then the other part of me is like, you know what, though, that makes me appreciate people from all walks of life more because I've been there. I waited tables. I wasn't very good at it, but people liked me. I just show up and smiled, and if I made a mistake, I'm so sorry, I'll get that for you. Just whatever. But I was that. I was a busboy. I was. I mean, yeah, just in the shop game. So I just, um, like even now, I have friends that drive trucks, that fix trucks, fleet mechanics. I mean, granted, they make good money, but I mean, I have a lot of blue collar friends, and I think at the end of the day, it's just relating to people, and I may not have as bad of a past as some people that are saying, well, I have it so bad, and therefore I can't go out and get the resources. I think in this day and age too, especially just like you said, your phone. I have my phone in my
Right.
hand. Yeah. I mean, this device is awesome.
This
For the
device
most
is
part.
totally awesome. But there's no buts. I hate that word, and my goal is to eliminate that word from my vocabulary.
Right.
And the thing, that I want to bring out a little bit more. You said that you met your wife in your 20s.
Yes.
Yes. So, you know, it's interesting because I was just thinking to myself the other day, it's like and I was telling somebody this. I said, if the person that you're with is not pushing you to be more, grow, morph into a new being,
Right.
then other than sex, then why are you with them?
Exactly. I mean, I think she still would have been by my side. I mean, if I was still a person that, I mean, not making what I'm making now,
You
or
honestly think your wife would have put up with that level of foolishness that you were bringing to the table?
well, probably. I mean, probably not. I mean, she's not that type, but who knows, right? Who knows? Because thing is, um, as she advances and whatnot, I mean, and then, you throw kids into the equation and all that stuff. It's kind of like, things would get harder. And I think at one point she might have said, I think you're better than this. What are you doing? You know, um, my thing was, I was just tired of just, dreading Monday and loving Friday. Uh,
Hmm.
when I see that, I'm like, oh, this whole TGIF and all that stuff. I mean, I think if you're TGIF, either you're a kid in school, which I get it because you're forced to go to school,
Right.
or
I mean,
you're an unhappy adult working. Because I mean, there are some Saturdays where I have to go out and I show houses, or I have to list a house, on a Sunday afternoon. I mean, that happens. But at the same time, I built up my career to where, um, I drop off my kid at school and I can pick them up. So, it's all about flexibility. Um,
mhm.
but people really have no excuse to not succeed unless they're okay with a certain level, which is fine.
Right.
Um,
Which is
I
totally
know.
fine. Because I'm gonna be, let me just be completely transparent. I myself have, I just realized how much I have defined my definition of success based upon my ability to hold a W-2, a job, right?
Right,
And
right.
I completely acknowledge it. And yes, I'm putting it out there on video. What I've discovered, and which is what brings us to this, because you just made a very good point, right? Is the transitioning over to an entrepreneurial mindset, right?
Yeah.
It's totally different than when I was working, at the banks, out in sales, selling loans and all that other stuff. I had a whole different level of, it's a whole nother world.
Right.
Um, because somebody else was doing the marketing, somebody else was doing all this other stuff, putting together and all this other stuff. Yeah, there's some similarities, but when you become an entrepreneur, everything then falls on your shoulders.
You are the CEO of everything.
You are the CEO of everything. And a lot of people, and I thought that if I just hang my shingle out, right, then people will come. But just the other day, I just quickly realized that there are 10 different types of marketing I should be doing all at once. And I'm like going, why didn't I learn this in 2017, right? When I started. Um, but now I know, right? Now I know. So
Right.
when you made that transition from blue collar to now entrepreneur, now you are a top performing realtor in Michigan. I think you're in the top, what, 1%?
Oh, something like that. One or three. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
What
yeah.
was that transition like? Because a lot of people just think, you're like Beyonce, you woke up like this.
I wish, right? It takes work. No, I mean, it's definitely a mindset. You have to just really fill yourself with stuff that motivates you, and then you go out and you just conquer the world. But I had done about 10 years in the mortgage business, and I actually got out of it not because of the recession and all that, although they were cutting jobs, but because of the bubble that we didn't think was there.
Right.
But I've been in offices where I'm there all day and I'm like, oh gosh, this is not for me. Um, and maybe I can attribute some of this to my ADD. I don't know, but I like being on the move. I like planning my own days, my own time, my own schedule. If I have to time block something, I ask myself, yeah, I can make that work. Can I make that work? And then I just do it. But you have to have that self-discipline too, right?
But you just didn't get that self-discipline. You developed
no,
that self-discipline. And so,
yeah. I mean, I think you have to get burned a little bit. When I was in outside sales mortgages, prior to going to the retail bank where you're sitting in the lobby,
right.
doing loans, the free time was too easy. It was, oh, you know what? I'll do this and I'll do that. And then I would be this is back in 2004. I'd be so focused on, like, if I, when a deal came in, I'd be like, okay, and I'm gonna work that deal. I'm gonna keep it going, and then next thing you know, oh, something happened, or they changed their mind about the house, or they can't close, or they bought furniture when they were supposed to, and then all this stuff. And so I learned that, you have to have multiple things going on. You have to have multiple clients to succeed.
Right.
Yes, you want the client to feel like they're the only client, but you can't, like, that's where I really learned. It's like, okay, you can't see your open schedule and be like, I can do whatever I want. I mean, you have to be disciplined and say, okay. And so I kind of learned that, like, I had a deal, I forgot how much it was for, but I was counting on it, and next thing you know, that wasn't there. And I was like, oh, okay, honey, sorry, I got another person and then I would read. Actually, reading's probably my number one contributor to success besides a hard work ethic. I would read about people who would not do this, where they work to get leads, then they get some, then they focus on it, they're really high and happy, and then it closes. Let's say it does close, and then now you're back to sales. You should always be lead generating, always be working on getting more and more business, networking, and just doing. And then I realized that, if your days aren't aren't packed, like if you're not scheduling your time in 15-minute intervals, at least, then there's something wrong when,
Right.
you're not disciplined, because that's what really separates people from those that use as much time as they can. Uh,
Yes, yes, yes. Because you're referring to calendar blocking, right?
Calendar blocking, give yourself a little bit of a cushion, but for the most part, just know, you know, what you have to do every day. I mean, I look at my calendar, I use Google Calendars, um, and I look at that every single day and night. I mean, I'll look at next week, once a day, just, okay, you know, that this, I'm going to do this next week. Perfect. I got follow up. So I'm always doing that. Some people prefer the paper planner. That's perfectly fine.
Right.
Whatever works, but have that discipline. Cause too many times people just, they tend to think I'll be okay. Which is, in my industry of real estate, that's probably why most agents only close 1 to 4 deals a year. And that's if they're lucky, if they hit that 4, because they get into the business, and then Uncle Fred and my cousin Earl got, they're gonna go through me because they heard at a barbecue that I can do this, so great. And then after that, it's like, well, now what?
Mhm. When you were a kid, did you do any type of entrepreneurial things as a kid?
It's funny because I've seen a lot of success stories from.
Not success stories. Did you do anything as a kid? Did you get out and cut grass? Did you like?
The only thing that I've done entrepreneurial as a kid was I basically shoveled driveways for money. I'll never forget. I wanted a Game Boy, the black and white one, the
Oh
first
my
one.
God, child! You're telling your age.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It was $89.94, and I saved up. My parents were like, "It's not your birthday. It's not Christmas. Are you crazy?" And so I saved up for it, and I said, "I got the money." Um, we had some people on our street that weren't able to shovel the driveway, and I jumped out there as fast as I could. And I didn't ask them how much. I just did it, and they would give me $10. One time I got 20.
Wow.
And I just kept doing that. But there's a lot of entrepreneurs that say, when I was a kid, I hustled, and I had 3 other friends work a paper route, and then I franchised. I never did anything like that. I
No.
just was like, I just did that. And, but I was always a hard worker, though. I always worked hard at all the jobs. I mean, um, when I was a teen, I worked full time alongside high school. I worked at fast food restaurants. I mean, Arby's, McDonald's, Burger King, which I've had like probably 20 jobs prior. But I was always working hard at those jobs, even though I hated it. Free fast food offers, that gets old.
That does get old.
It
But
really does.
do you see any correlation between the way that you worked as a kid and what you're doing now as an adult?
Yes. That's the one, I don't know if I'd say constant or link
Right.
or common trait is that um I work hard at what I do now,
Mhm.
because ever since I've had a job, which actually my earliest W-2 job was when I was 14. I worked full time in the summer helping out summer school teachers. The last place that any 14-year-old wants to
Hey,
be.
you just got to saying earlier that you was a little hellion in sixth grade, but what you doing working at a summer school job helping teachers?
They were like, it pays $4.75 an hour. And it was like 5 or 6 hours a day, Monday through Friday. And I'm like, I was motivated by money. I was like, yeah. And I was going to a cold, air conditioned school. They had summer school kids there, and I would basically help out. Um, I don't know. I think at first it was the money, because the checks for a 14-year-old, it was like, wow. Um, but I did enjoy it, though. I enjoyed it a little bit. I was like, wow, you know what? This is kind of cool. Um, but yeah, it's weird. Matter of fact, going back to that too. So my second term of sixth grade, um, you know, I I was still bitter, right? I mean, I started over, you know, a lot of my friends moved up a grade, and then I got teased for that, and you know, this and that, and it was just hell. Um, so I was a little bit bitter. I was like, oh, this school sucks, and this, you know,
Right.
right. But I always found joy in going to the library, and I would check out one at a time, but I would actually check out and read the book probably in about a week. The old school Hardy Boys books, the blue hardcover.
Oh my God.
Yep. And I just, that always just stopped me in my tracks, and just, and it was so weird.
So
Um,
you are, wow.
and
So
that's
now it's
probably
hard.
another constant, because I read now, but now I read strictly business books, improvement books. You know, I actually had the pleasure of speaking with Jeffrey Gitomer the week before last, and that was weird.
Wait, when you say speaking with Jeff Gittimore, you mean like interviewing him, or like you would have said, "Hi, Jeff, please sign my book"? Like, because Jeff Gittimore is like the Little Red Bible, like Little Red Sales Bible. Sorry, like you guys, like I read that book, and it took my sales career, like it put me in the, like it just, I just went, "Vroom."
We had a phone call the week before last. Um, in early February, I had sent him a copy of my book because he did a video on Facebook. He was doing a Facebook Live 5 days a week for I forget how long, like 30 days or something. I think he still does some of them. But he was talking about how everybody should write a book. And he was sharing some tips. And I totally agree with that. So I commented on his FB Live. I said, hey, you're right. That's cool. So I mailed him one. But it wasn't until the week before last, I get this phone call from North Carolina,
Yeah,
and I wasn't able to answer it. I was in a meeting, and he goes, hey, Jason, Jeffrey Gitomer, standing by. And then he hung up. And I'm like, serious? So I call back and I get him. You know, he asked me to not share the phone number, but he goes, let's talk. I like your book. He gave me some tips and stuff. And then he said he was putting on a webinar or a live weekend thing with like 5 people. I said, okay, you know, I wish I could make that, but I can't. But we had like a half an hour conversation about doing video and writing a book. He said that I should do a second revision on my book, add some more information, because obviously, you know, it's already been 2 years and whatnot. Um, but how cool was that? I was like, get out. And
get
I'm like,
out. Because I'm like, if you like, like, yeah, Jeffrey Gitomer, you guys, like the Little Red Sales Bible. I mean, like
it was awesome.
that book took the, helped drive the fear of sales
Oh yeah.
basic out of me. And then that's when I developed, this is how I was able to be so successful as a W-2 employee
Right.
from reading books like that, right? Because everybody else took care of the marketing. But I basically was like, well, I have a business within a business. But
Yes.
until I started getting back into personal growth and development, that is when I started to discover that a part of my challenge, an opportunity for growth and development as a business owner, is transformation of my mind. Going, to change my mindset from an employee who had all the other stuff done. All I had to do was just focus on
Right.
SALES.
Yes.
That's it.
Sales fixes everything.
Sales fixes
I
everything when you're a W-2, but when you're self-employed,
well, right.
right? It's the sales, it's the marketing, it's establish yourself as the expert, it's the, managing employees, it's everything. You have a small glimpse of that as a manager, a bigger glimpse of that as an executive. But the thing that organizations have, they have systems, that take the emotions out of things. And
Absolutely.
as an entrepreneur, I've discovered how much, I'm still growing in that aspect and recognizing that systems drive results without my emotions. And I'm like, okay.
Absolutely.
I'm like,
Right. And why can't an entrepreneur who is chief everything officer, have systems.
Oh, we totally can have
We
systems.
can. Yeah.
We totally can. I just
There's no
think
reason
that
why not,
there's no reason. No. And I
you
just
know,
discovered that.
that's an interesting topic to be, because I'll tell you, I think too, many people, at least that I've seen, many people don't like being a W-2 employee, and then they say, well, okay, I'm gonna be my own boss and I'm gonna do what I want, but they don't realize that you still have to do some W-2 duties.
Yes.
You know, you can't just say, okay, I'm an entrepreneur, so therefore I don't have to order ink for my computer, I don't have to, or the printer, I don't have to, make sure that I pay employees, or it's like, well, no, you are your own boss, which means you're everything.
You're
uh,
everything. And I
right.
think it occurs, and I'm purposely choosing my words, it occurs as overwhelming. And the overwhelm comes from we're not taught to be entrepreneurs in any public school system or any school system.
Right, you're right.
We're all have inherited the conversations from our families from around, go to school, get a degree, get a high school diploma, get a degree, get a job, work there until until you're 60, 65, and
Yeah.
then keep going. You
Right.
know, in reality, and that's fine and that's good.
Yeah.
And there's also the other side of the coin, or the dollar bill, or whatever you want to have it, that is entrepreneur related. And the thing that I'm discovering that as I grow as an entrepreneur is that I had the ability to have a much wider impact as an entrepreneur than I did as a W-2 employee. Even doing these videos, and doing this, I never thought about that and as a W-2 employee.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's funny you bring that up too, because even W-2 employees, especially in sales, they should really be doing video for what they sell.
Correct.
It's
If they
otherwise,
can, because of regulations and compliance.
yeah, I mean, depends on what you sell, but I think, well, so to credit Jeffrey Gitomer again, he says, I forget which book it was. I'm sorry, Jeff, if you're going to be watching this. He might.
He
Uh,
might.
Jeffrey, actually, he prefers that. But if you're not with a forward-thinking organization that just wants to control all the social media, then maybe you need to think about moving companies, because many companies are using video, and I think sales reps should do that, whether you're W-2 or you're your own boss. I mean, I push video a lot.
You do. You have a lot of videos.
I think it's, I like it. I don't. All right, I'm going to reveal something to Earl
You've
Jones.
revealed a lot probably on this show, more than you've done on
I
other
know.
shows.
It's kind of like, okay, I don't know. I feel too comfortable with you, Earl.
I will confess. I will confess. I also started a mobile notary business, and I had a person tell me, "Your voice is so soothing. I just want to tell you everything about me." And his wife looked at him like, I was like, "Girl, keep your man, keep your man." I checked your. I was like,
yeah.
I was like, "Get your man," because I don't know what's going on over here, but
Yeah,
I'm just here to make my Benjamins and walk out the door.
exactly. But no, I'm actually not a fan of myself on video.
Oh, child! Now you talking my language, because I think I sound so extra. I'm gonna say this. I think I sound so extra. I sound so extra gay. I don't like my voice. I think it's too nasal. I don't like the way my chin looks. I'm like, oh my God, you can. I have all these imperfections. But as my grandmama, as my great grandmama Luella Powell would say, that's just the devil talking to you, baby.
It is, and
Now
she's right.
you either go listen to what I say,
Right,
or the devil's gonna get your behind whooped. Which one do you want?
right, right. Well, she's right. That's actually probably one of the biggest things that holds people back from doing video. Now, the business part of me is like, okay, great. You know, Other real estate agents, you think that, and I'm gonna swim against the tide and get over my insecurities and the flaws that I see. I'm gonna get over my self doubt and utilize video, because in I don't know how many months or years, the people that aren't doing video are going to be so far behind, because they're going to Google me or another professional, and maybe actually I've actually had this happen. I had a client that hired me because they Googled me and they saw what I do because I put it out there, and then they didn't see anything with this other person. And this other agent had a standard website that the broker gave. It was so basic, nothing, one stock photo of himself. But they had been in the real estate industry for like 40 years.
Yeah.
And it's like you have, so I think, so the business side of me is like, I'm glad, not everybody's getting, and I know that sounds harsh, but that's just the business reality. I mean, I am in sales. But the personal side of me is like, everybody should be telling their story, because if you have two people, the client still might choose the other person because maybe they connect with them more. Maybe
Right.
they connect with a young woman who sounds more soothing, and they prefer, that's fine.
Right.
That's
Right.
fine. Video eliminates wasting time too, because at least as far as lead generation, because if most of the people that connect with me, they've seen my videos, some of them at least. So like, you know what? We like how you do that. I went to list a condo that was a referral, on Facebook, someone says, I need a referral to an agent. And you see all these names. My past client put on there, Jason Gelios, check out his videos here. And she clicked on the link and, okay, I want to get a feel for this guy. She hired me, didn't ask me anything except, when can you list this? Didn't even have to present, because
Wow.
they saw me doing the value.
But you've been doing videos since when?
I got into video, I mean, really doing them probably a couple of years ago.
You've been doing it for a few years. I will confess, I started, then I was like, oh, and then I stopped, and then I was like, oh, and then I went to a Tony Robbins event, and then I was like,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, Earl, and I heard the little, I was like, like literally, right? I was like,
Right.
Earl, come on, you got to get back to doing the videos, especially when I had another, insurance agent say, I've watched your videos. Your
Yeah.
videos are really good. They're on point. You know, you're not promoting yourself, right? Because I'm not using them to promote myself at
Yeah.
all.
I mean, indirectly, but
Right.
you're putting the value first.
Correct. I'm
That's
putting
my
value.
favorite.
Yeah. But but when you talk about that, I part of me wants to reach through Zoom and like choke you, because I'm like going, okay, God, I get it. I get it. Because even my, I'm just gonna say this, even my therapist, like, Earl, you have faith. Yes, I do believe in mental health. Um, and she's like, you have faith. It's clearly you have faith, and you've just got to have faith. Um, and I was like, okay, God. Yes, Father.
Yeah. Which, if you have faith, you have everything. I mean, in my opinion, I think. I mean, what could really happen to you? You know.
Oh, it's funny that you say that, because, you know, the way that I react sometimes to things happening, um, my coach and landmark wisdom division, Perry Steffenhagen, she says, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And
Right.
she constantly keeps reminding me of that, Earl, it happens to you.
Right.
I'm sorry, it happens for you, not to you.
Yeah.
And then I heard Ed Hardy. Is it Ed Hardy?
That rings a bell.
Yeah. I believe his name is, yeah. No, Ed Milet. Sorry, Ed Milet. Ed Milet. He said it on his show.
Oh,
And then,
yeah.
Ed Milet, who I also listen to on his podcast.
Yeah.
And then and then Tony Robbins also mentioned it on UPW. And I was like, okay, God, thank you for the reminder. It's not happening to you, it's happening for me. okay, okay. And
Well,
I have to keep reminding myself because my probable, my propensity is to respond back to victimhood, which is why I said earlier, because I grew up, my mom is a mama bear, but at the same time, she couldn't protect me from everything, right?
right.
And I I mean, I literally have watched people get into fistfights, adults. I've watched, an adult male slam a woman's head into a car.
Jeez.
I've watched somebody break into my mother's car. I watched somebody break into the car in front of my car.
Wow.
Yeah, like where I grew up, when here in the Bay Area, when people talk about how bad it is in Oakland and East Palo Alto, I'm like, baby, I'm from St. Louis, from North City, St. Louis.
Right.
Honey, I know 6 years old that will bust a cap at an adult and not think twice about it.
Right.
I come from that. And so when I start to take on these new ventures and these new things, the past still shows up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, get a hold of it, get a hold of it. So when you mentioned Darren Hardy, pouring clean water into a dirty glass, you reminded me like this isn't unfortunately the dirty glass doesn't automatically become clean.
It doesn't. Yeah.
It does take time to go.
Yeah.
And so I'm really glad that we're having this conversation because this is now just serving as confirmation that I am moving in the right direction. And then I had another confirmation thing that happened yesterday, where a person actually wanted to pay me to be a personal coach.
Nice. That's a sign.
I was like, okay. And I said, girl, let me tell you, when I'm done, you got to make a decision, right? Because I don't want to hear about what you can't do and what you can do.
Right.
And then when we were done, she was like, well, this is what I'm going to do. I was like, oh,
Nice.
okay.
Right.
I didn't take any money from her.
Right.
But, she called me. She was like, you should be a personal coach. I was like, girl. But, but I share all that because I know that I'm not the only one that's out there that's thinking that, right? And this is despite the fact I've had success. This is despite the fact, I've done all these things, right? But this is my area of growth and opportunity because, and I'm going to ask you this question. How did you deal with, or did you experience imposter syndrome, before or after you wrote your book? Or
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you bring that up because once in a while it drops in my head, but then I push it out probably under 30 seconds because I'm like, you know what? Why not me? You know, um, do I sell the most homes in the world? No, but I am an expert, and it's just because, I live it, breathe it, eat it, but it's, well, one, I think it's selfish to not share your expertise.
oh,
Ouch, said it.
you
It's true.
so did. Hold on, hold your mule.
It's true. If you're not sharing what you know, you're selfish, Don't like the way you look on video. Okay, that sucks. But somebody needs your advice and they need to hear it from you. They need to hear it from you, not that other person down the street or, wherever. I mean, I've appeared in articles they're not really competition, I guess, because I'm not in their state, but my name has appeared in articles that are in their city.
Correct, because yours was featured in SF Gate. That's here in the Bay Area.
Everywhere, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's not really bragging. It's just I put myself out there, and I mean, it's a lot. Some of it involves getting up at 5:30 a.m. and some of it, I'm staying up late trying to do an article or something. But my point is, if you're not sharing that information with people in a fun manner too, just a laid back, I had a broker that I was with, my first real estate office that I was with. He told me, you should always be dressed up, wearing a suit and tie and all this stuff. And I said, no.
Oh.
Sometimes I have to do that. Don't get me wrong, but no, because I don't want to be
unapproachable.
unapproachable. Yeah. And I think people do sense that, like, oh gosh, um, I probably can't approach him or whatnot, or, ask him this and that. It's like, well, no, I mean, you can and you should. I don't do videos and put them and upload them for free for people because I don't want to give advice. I want to share advice, helpful tips, whether they go through me or not. But what I've learned is that it does draw positive attention to yourself because you're showing that you're caring. Um, One of the best things that I've done in my realtor career, besides press, is actually pushing out a weekly show, even if I'm slammed. Like, I try to do them in advance, right? 3 or 4, but that's not always the case. I've done it where I recorded one, like, actually a lot of them are from my car.
What?
I don't have a fancy background. A lot of times I have a dash mount, I put the camera there, and I share what I want to share. Sometimes I'll edit a show from a device when I'm waiting for my son at piano, or my daughter at golf. I'll edit it on my phone, then I'll upload it that night. Because show must go on, right? There
Right.
are days where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, but it's worth it because when you think nobody's watching, by the way, if you miss a step, they'll tell you. They'll be like, weren't you supposed to do a show on
Oh,
Thursday, or what happened?
so you don't get caught up in the number of views?
No, I don't, because one, more people will see your videos than it shows or you think. Because it depends on the platform. So, like, on Facebook and Instagram, I upload the video direct because it will autoplay when someone's scrolling, unless they have that turned off, which most people don't.
Right.
They'll see me talking, like, mute, and what's talking about? Um, and by the way, it does help if you do change your background a little bit. Like, I was in our city of Detroit. This was the last episode last week, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna do one episode from down here, in my city. I say down there because I'm basically 40 minutes north,
I was going to say, you're 40 minutes north,
north of
about an
Detroit. Yeah.
hour. Well, technically, depending on how much traffic is, you could be, an
Oh,
hour and a half. And
during
snow.
rush hour, yeah, it's at least an hour and a half because our highways are just. Um, but I had the GM Renaissance Center in my backdrop.
That is a beautiful building.
Yeah, and so if anything, they're watching that, not me.
That's a
But you gotta change it
beautiful
up.
building. Oh my God. That GM building. The thing I love about Michigan is that despite the cold,
Right.
there is so much to do.
There's a lot to do.
And it doesn't matter what part of Michigan you are in. It's
Oh
like
no, yeah,
you can, for those that like to, I mean, seriously, huge shout out to
yeah.
Michigan. Because every time, like even when I've been in Macomb or Sterling Heights or Detroit,
Oh
or
yeah,
because I have a good friend that lives in Michigan, and when every
yeah.
time I go, there's always something, and the food. Jesus, take the wheel.
We're huge on our food. We have so
You-
many
oh,
different types of food. Um, it's yeah. I mean, you can drive a small distance and get all. I mean, Polish food, Mediterranean food,
Russian,
Russia, everything.
Ethiopian, traditional,
Amen.
authentic Greek.
Yep,
Um,
yep. Anything.
like this, and this barbecue fusion that happens.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm like, it's not exactly Texas, it's not exactly St. Louis.
Right.
I'm like going like, now what is this? Like what is this?
Yeah.
But Michigan is, now I cannot live there because it's just too cold for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's 60, it is 56 degrees outside in my neck of the woods, and my thermostat is on 73. Like it's just too cold. Too
Yeah.
cold.
It does get really, really cold here. That's really the downside. I mean, when we get up to 50, I mean, people have the tops down on their cars. They're wearing shorts. It's like,
And flip
really?
flops. Yeah.
Flip-flop. Yeah, I don't get the whole flip flop craze.
Well,
I don't
move
know.
to the Bay Area. Move to the Bay Area.
Well, if I was out there, funny story back, I was a junior. I almost went to the Academy of Arts College to study video in San Fran. And one, I saw the price. I was like, oh my, well, okay, maybe I'll go to the community college.
Right.
I was like,
Ain't nothing wrong with community college. One of the things I
oh
want to do,
no,
I want to teach. I want to teach, I want to be a college professor. I want to be an adjunct professor. Mhm.
nice.
I do want to teach. I don't know. My mother beat me to the punch because I like to be first in my family, but she
Right.
beat me to the punch.
Right.
Mhm. So you wanted to come out here to the Bay Area, got sticker shock, stayed in Michigan.
Yeah.
But did you study video or did you study something else?
Well, I realized that unless I went out west or New York, video was not going to be a fruitful career. I mean, as far like I was actually on the back end. So like, I took a video class 2 hours a day, 3 years out of my high school life. And I just was like, wow. I mean, there, well, were, and probably still are cameramen, and I don't know how they live on this, but cameramen who work for major studios out west that make 30 to 40 a year. And you're living in California. So I'm kind of like, ouch, like that, I mean, they love what they're doing. That's cool. But I just was like, I don't know. So I got into graphic design a little bit, did that for a while, but then learned that my area was kind of saturated and we had a lot of talent that was doing it for like 20, 30 years.
Mhm.
And I was good at doing the print material, but not good enough to make a good living at it.
Mm.
So I still
But that-
use my graphic skills for stuff.
or maybe that's not what your definition of God wanted you for the best for you.
Yeah, I mean, something just pulled me aside from it. And then a family member told me, you know what, you should be in sales. What are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know, sales, really knocking on doors? They're like, well, no, there's different kinds of sales. And that kind of opened up the door to get into the mortgage business. And I'm like, huh, I've always loved houses.
Right.
Never been a huge car guy. Um,
So you're not
I
driving
love,
around in the latest and greatest car.
I don't. I really. I mean, sometimes at showings, I'll see another agent that has a Benz, or like a Range Rover, and I'm just like, I don't know. I just think one, it sends a bad message. Like maybe you're overpriced. I could be wrong. I mean, I just think what, like if you're showing $1 million house, that's okay. But if you're showing a $200,000 house in Michigan and you're pulling up in a Benz, that's kind of like, okay. Or if you're trying to list it, it has a negative effect.
Mm.
Um, you know, but I'm not a huge car guy. I mean, I love houses. And so I was like, okay, I could do mortgages. And I started getting into that, learn through sweat equity, how to be good at it. Um, But after a while, I was like, you know what? I'm pushing paperwork, although I still am now on this side. But I want to be out there. I want to see the properties. I want to see people's reactions when they see the house that's going to be theirs. Like I wanted to be in the field.
Mhm.
So that, that's what got me to switch,
Got
uh,
it.
to switch sides. So,
The switch sides. Okay, so I have this. I have just a couple more questions, and we're gonna wrap this up.
yeah.
So now, how are you? Because you got kids. You got two, boy and girl, two boys or two girls.
My daughter's 14 and my son's 10.
So how are you teaching them in the way that they should go, such that they are better than you when they are before they're your age?
Right. Well, they have more resources. My parents, they worked hard for what they had.
Because you didn't grow up wealthy.
No, no. I mean, you know, I
Because a lot
mean,
of people think successful folks grew up wealthy, and that is just not true.
most of them haven't, and I think that's a part of what drives them is they're like, well, okay, I don't want to do this.
Right.
you know. Um, but I mean, no, I mean, I had things, I had nice clothes. I mean, not like the crazy name brand stuff.
Right.
I didn't have $100 jeans until I was working, and then I actually bought the Tommy Hilfiger jeans. But then I learned that, you know what, this is stupid. I'm spending $75 on jeans. This is dumb. Um, you know, but you get it out of your system. Oh, I got to do this. I pay for it myself, whatever.
I know,
Um,
because I did the same thing with all of my expensive clothes. My mother was like, "You need to get out there and cut some grass because I'm not buying it."
yeah, exactly.
But we were talking about your kids and what you're doing to guide them in the way that they should go so that they
yeah,
can discover for themselves so that they don't have to repeat,
right. Well, I think
hopefully not repeat.
right. My wife and I are on the same page with them having the
Well,
opportunity.
hold up. You said my wife and I are on the same page.
Yeah, I know. Well, when it comes to that, right?
No, but see, that is the big key right there. See,
Yeah,
because I have seen with my own two eyes parents who are not on the same page
right.
as it relates to raising kids, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I've seen it with my own two
Right,
eyes, and I'm like going, because my mom and my stepfather were on the same page when it came to raising us.
right.
Like you could not go to the one and put the other one. Nope.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean you know, so our thing is, we're gonna introduce them options,
Right.
right, that they have. For example, my wife really knows a lot about how to take pre-college courses while you're in high school to
Mhm.
get ahead. And so, I lean on her for that because she really knows about that. And so we're introducing that to our daughter who's in ninth grade. So she's going to have that opportunity to get a head start. And I mean, I don't think college is everything out there, but I think it's a good basis, and then go off into what you want to do, whether it's being an entrepreneur or whatever. But we're going to present those opportunities, right?
Right.
My kids are involved in different types of activities that many people don't have access to. So they have access to things that they could try, that they can do, and then that will give them the foundation. And then when they get into their profession, or whatever life holds for them, they're going to have home base to maybe save up a year's salary or two, right? They get their salary, they're at home for like a year or two or whatever. I don't mind that, because then they get the jump start.
Mm-hmm.
They get the jump start to, okay, now they have money and savings so that they don't have to borrow so much or rely on credit cards or this and that. My wife and I both, we started from the ground up. We started from the ground up, and we learned a lot from it. And our kids learn hard work, but they already know hard work. Thank God. I mean, that's a big thing. But that's one of the biggest I guess assets that they have, is that we're pushing education. I mean, me as an entrepreneur, I still think education is key. I have an associate's degree, but I have a master's in self-education. I mean, I've read more books than the average college student does. I mean, or has. I just grab whatever. I mean, I'll spend $100. My kids will ask me, "Can we get this book, that book?" Yep. I don't even question it. But if they want to spend $100 on a video game, well, I don't know. Let's see if you really need it. But when it comes to books, we don't. Within reason. We're like, yeah.
Right. Because the reading has turned you, because your wife is also an avid reader, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. She researches things like you wouldn't believe, being in the healthcare field. And actually, she's working on a book as well. She's starting to work on a book about healthcare. So, it, like, she would have never thought that I would have been an author. She says, I love you, but I would have never thought that you would have wrote a book. And actually, she didn't know that I wrote a book until I put a deadline on it, which forced me to complete it. Because for about a year, I just had a bunch of chapters. I just had notes. Just I spit out stuff and topics and things, and then I formulated it. And my wife's like, "Wait, what? You wrote what?" you
And you
know,
self-published? You self-published it, right?
I self-published it. Yeah, my ultimate goal with the book was not to really make money on it. I mean, although it's been doing okay, but it was really to be different. Just like with video, the book is also helpful because instead of giving out just a business card, you can give out a book, which I think you should write a book. I think that should be something in your 2021 plan is to start it.
Dear Lord Jesus, please just know that I love you and I appreciate you, God. I really honestly do. Because it's, because I have been thinking about, it's like I have all this information about insurance, and there are things that I know that the average person does not know.
Absolutely.
And I'm just going to say this, but a lot of people think that just because it says insurance, they think they got something, or because they got a cheap price, they got something. Well, I just took a continuing education course, here in California, that literally states one of the biggest schemes that they are fighting is low priced, not low priced, but it was almost written as low priced insurance because it does not cover the general area. I mean, we live in an area where the median income for a family of four is almost $110,000.
Right.
So if somebody's offering cheap insurance and the average house price in the Bay Area is a little less than $1 million, is a little more than $1 million.
Right.
The only way that you can get coverage cheap is you got to cut corners somewhere. And I was just with a person as a notary, and I'm looking at their homeowners insurance policy, and they're telling me that they bought a townhouse and it's a homeowners association. I saw weaknesses throughout that entire thing. I was like, if it's a townhouse and you have a homeowners association, did they ask you for the covenants and restrictions and conditions, CC and R? They said no. I said, are you responsible for the exterior of the home? We don't know. So, and I see that you have earthquake insurance on this. They were like, yeah. I was like, do you know if the homeowners association has earthquake coverage? They were like, I said, because if they don't have earthquake, you having earthquake in your condo, all you're going to be able to do is replace your contents.
Right.
And they were like, this person that works for a big 800 number name, right? Didn't tell us that, didn't ask us that. They were just sold them a policy. I was like, at my office, honey, we have standards. And standards number one, when we hear a person say condo townhouse, can you please send me a copy of the HOA before I give you a quote? Because I need to read it to find out what's covered, what's not covered. Because if I write the policy wrong, guess what? Your claims is also going to go wrong. I feel sorry for those people in Texas because a lot of them are going to discover denied.
Oof.
Or their claim is going to be extended out, or they're going to see that they cannot get their house rebuilt the way that it was prior to the damage that was caused because they did not either A, call the insurance company and say, hey, I added 30 feet to my kitchen.
Yeah, I should probably know that,
right? And here's where, or I've added a second story to my house and didn't call and tell the insurance company. Ooh. Or I added solar, didn't call and tell the insurance company. And the other part is that a lot of cheap policies that are out there have what's called actual cash value, which means that if you spent $600 for the TV back in 2016, guess how much you'll get in 2021? You're only going to get about $300 to $400 because it takes some depreciation.
Yeah, I heard about that. We had a family that we knew. that had a house fire, torched the whole house. They got out, but they had to make an itemized list.
Everything.
Yeah, and then the insurance company says, "Well, okay, okay, probably 60% value, 20% value," and they're like, "Wait, what?" And it's like, "Well, yeah, they don't just replace. At least in their case, they don't just replace a TV that you spent $1,000 on 3 years ago because it's
No,
not worth that."
it is not that. And it's coming from big name insurance companies
Yeah, yeah,
because those types of policies are cheaper.
right.
They are cheaper. And so, one last question. So, what book are you reading now?
Oh, I'm on the spot. Okay,
You are totally on the spot.
I
I
am.
told you before this happened. I told you that we were going to have a conversation. I have no idea what's
No,
going to come
I
out of my
know.
mouth, and you just need to answer the question.
I am reading Jeffrey Gitomer's latest book, Go Live. And it's something that I'm actually considering. I'm almost done with the book. It's a somewhat quick read, but he talks about the power of going live on all these platforms. And he says the more you do that, you could build up, a following and all that stuff. I might incorporate a live show once a week. I'm not sure. I know some people are doing it, and they get the regulars that chime in. I know it's a lot more work because you have to prep people to be ready to join, versus a recorded video, which I'm a huge fan of recorded. Like, okay, just, I can upload it. I can record it when I can, and then I can upload. So I'm not, but it's a thought. So Jeffrey Gitomer's latest book, which came out, I think, last month, Go Live, is a really good book. A lot of good tips, we'll see if I get that way.
We'll see. Yes. Now, I want you to tell people how can they find. I am going to put your link to LinkedIn and all that other
Appreciate that.
stuff, right? Like, I'm going to put it out there. But I want you to tell people, like, how can they find you, and if they are planning to move to, to Michigan, the whole 9 yards. Because what we've talked about, this is now I'm understanding why she said, "Earl, you should be a life coach." Because we didn't talk, we barely talked about real estate and insurance. We talked about.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important to do a little bit of both. I've been in more real estate articles than I have personal, but I did a couple personal interviews with Huffington Post, their authority magazine, and they were personal. And the first one was like, it was about how I became a realtor and all that. And I was like, ooh, I got to dive a little bit personal into this one, and it wasn't so much about, actual real estate. It was just how I'm sorry. It was how I started my second chapter of my life.
Oh.
And then my second interview with them, it launched 3 days ago. It was riding the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. And that's not about real estate at all. It's just, how do you deal with the ups and the downs and the challenges and things like that? And so I'm like, okay. So I think you have to have a mixture. You have to kind of show people your personal side, as well as the work stuff.
Well, I've talked more about some stuff, child, in the name of Betty Crocker.
Well, you know what? I'm going to drop you a tip before I drop my shameless self-promotion here.
What's that?
Is that tidbit that you shared, right, about the homeowners association and that person, you could cut that out of the Zoom and share it as its own short video with a title, helpful tip about making sure you have the right insurance or something. So now you have the Zoom, right? Our conversation, but then you have that snippet where somebody can click on, and it's a whole nother video.
I didn't even think about doing that until you just said it. And then a little thought came to my head. I can easily find a person that can do that.
Now you got two videos. And actually, I learned that from Gary Vaynerchuk. He talks about that.
Oh, Gary Vaynerchuk, that little man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
I,
if you're doing, let's say you're doing a long form video where you're like, okay, 10 tips for finding the right insurance agent. Then you could do you could break all that up and have short tips. Tip number 1, how to find the right agent. Tip number 2, how to find the right agent. And just now you have 11 videos because you got 10 separate tips, and just a quick thing with a little end card, just something call to action, and that's it. Now you got 11 videos.
and you just started yourself a consulting business.
I thought about doing that because somebody was asking me, actually, they wanted my advice on doing video. And I'm like, well, I'm not a professional editor. I'm a realtor, second, because I'm a family man and husband and all that stuff first. Well, third, I'm a realtor. Yeah. Family and the husband.
Right.
But I don't know. But then I'm like, but then you have to really commit. And then I don't know, I kind of feel bad taking someone's money, but I guess if they're increasing their business, and my time is so tight, like I'll tell other agents what I do. Hey, here's the software that I use. And here, Adobe Premiere Elements, it's $70 at Best Buy. It's not anything special. It's just, the microphone that I bought is like $15 on Amazon. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just get yourself out there, record. Don't worry about, fancy lighting and all that. Just do it.
I do worry about fancy lighting because Ansel
Yours is
Adams.
nice.
Yes, one of my favorites. All right. Now give yourself the shameless plug because we could talk all day. There were so many gems in this video, and I really feel like a lot of cloud has been lifted because, like I said before, it's just a transformation of the way that I think. I've been a sales rep longer than I've been an entrepreneur,
Right.
and I honestly thought that once I became an entrepreneur, I would just, I thought I would be like Samantha and Bewitched. Twinkle my nose, or like, Ellen,
Right.
what is her name? Eleanor, and be like,
Oh yeah. She's awesome, by the way.
be like Durwood,
Right.
and like poof,
Yeah.
poof, poof, because that's what we see on TV. That's what we, we, the media and everybody portrays the babies, like after the baby's been born or the toddler or whatever, right? As a metaphor, but we don't talk about the 9 months of, of gestation.
Right. Oh yeah. And nobody sees that. Just like the iceberg, right? You see a little bit of the iceberg, but underneath is like the hard work, effort, all the long days, but people see,
like last night I didn't stop work until 12:30 a.m.
Right.
and I was like, oh, I'm hungry, and I made myself a salad with vegan chicken nuggets. I was like, I guess I can eat this, and I was trying I was like, it's 1:30 in the morning and I'm just now eating my second meal of the day.
Right.
All right, so shameless plug. Well, it's not shameless, it's actually really good.
All
right, so tell her.
Well, thank you. So my main hub is it's all about the realestate.com, or you can visit Gelios.com. All my social media links are there. I'm on Instagram, Twitter. I've been spending more time on Twitter, which is interesting. But Facebook, LinkedIn, I think I already said that. But the heart of everything is the website. And if you're interested in my book, I would definitely appreciate that. And your feedback.
Put up a photo. Don't you have a book right there that you can just throw up real quick, child?
Yeah, let me throw one up here.
No, see, he wasn't expecting that because I didn't tell him to be ready for that.
I should have it. This is the book. Think Like a Realtor. It's a fast read.
It is a fast read.
Yeah, I designed it to be something where you access it over and over again, right? Somebody can read it and gain value from it. So, but that is available on Amazon, BarnesandNobles.com, well, BNN.com now, Walmart, online, all those.
Have you converted to an audiobook yet?
We do have an audiobook. Thanks for asking. That is on Amazon exclusive. So if you have Kindle, if you have iPad, you can basically download that. The link is there. There's an audiobook as well as or I'm sorry, Earl, not the audiobook. It's a digital copy. The audiobook I'm thinking about doing, that's a whole nother project.
It is.
But I probably will end up doing that though, because I personally love audio. Like if I'm doing stuff around the house, I'll play something that, inspires me or does, something, just tips, advice. So, but I want to hear about you starting a book soon. We're going to talk about that next time.
Okay. We'll talk about that next time. All right, you guys, we are going to wrap this up. And Jason, thank you so much for coming. Actually, you are my first guest of the relaunch. And then I am going to be on another show here next week talking about E&O insurance for notaries. And then the funny thing is that one of the people that's reached out and expressed interest in working with me to help me grow my insurance agency, right. He's going to be so proud of me. He's like, "Oh my god!" Because when these people reach out to you, they offer to mentor you, and then when they see that you are taking action, it feeds them. It does feed them.
Absolutely, and I think if like I've given a lot of advice on video too to other agents, and I've seen them do a little bit. Yes, but they don't do much.
And I don't have copyrights to this, but
Oh, right. they're my fave. I'll actually be jamming them in a minute. But no, the greatest compliment to somebody providing advice to you is to get started on it. If it makes sense for you, it still has to make sense for you.
Yes, and then we'll put a link to the Ash Sharif show where we were both featured. And if she's watching,
that was fun.
Yes, that was really good. But if she's watching, hey,
hello,
hey girl, hey,
yeah, she's awesome.
All right, with that being said,
awesome. Well, definitely thank you for having me. And I'm looking forward to seeing your future episodes too. I want to see it.
All right, hold that thought.